As another year goes by, another group of 10 horrible, atrocious, disgusting, abominable, putrid, disgusting, low, horrible, misguided, misdirected, completely out of touch movies are just fired at us at a rapid pace with no sense of any common, knowledge of filmmaking. So let me rant about that for this rest of the remainder of this video. Hey there, what's going on, you guys? So, as you might have gathered from the beginning of this video, I am here to not talk about the movies that did the best this year, but the ones that did so bad. The ones that were so worse, they were forever burned into my retina, scorched into my brain, and then permanently hammered into my subconscious in the sense that it haunts me at night, and when I'm in sleep paralysis, this is what looks over me as I have nightmares trying to scream for help, but can't, because I exposed myself to this. So with that said, join me down this path of misery as we look back on the worst films. Top 10 of 2022. Coming in 10th and being the best of the worst, which is no real honor anyway, is The 355, a movie that is one of the most generic, terribly written spy films ever, with no real basis, characters that are merely cardboard cutouts, some really terrible green screening, and manages to just be boring, rather than becoming something that was new and reinvigorated. Could be the beginning of its own franchise. It feels like knockoff dollar store Charlie's Angels go to town and bore you to death until you sleep and your eyes are so closed that you believe they've been glued shut. And I really hope no one had to experience this. Managing to be a little worse than that is Redeeming Love, a movie that is so melodramatic, so boring, and so out of touch with anything that an audience member would somehow be remotely entertained by. It just manages to completely be dumb. And on top of that, it's a snooze fest with overacting, ridiculous performances, and for some reason, despite the fact that there's supposed to be love in this, it just feels soapy. And I didn't like a second of it. Falling down the staircase into our next worst spot is Firestarter, a despicable remake of a movie and a completely misguided attempt at adapting a novel, which only manages to be confusing, half-hearted, empty, and void of any real attempt to make this any kind of large, important film. Though marketed as if it was the most beautiful thing that we were going to see this year, it turned out Firestarter would have been better if all the film had been burned instead. Next up is a movie that is probably the 100th version of itself, and coming to us from Disney as its probable one of its biggest failures as of lately, Pinocchio. Everything is wrong with this movie from start to finish. Nothing of it really makes any sense. Nothing resonates. It's just bad. There's nothing about this movie that made me say, oh, you validated yourself in making this. It has terrible CGI from one of the richest studios in the entire world, a bad plot, average performances, and a basic surface level story. So in other words, there's nothing new here. And on top of that, it did less than that. Just missing out in the top 5 worst of this entire year is a movie called Elaine. A movie that tries to tell the biopic tale that we had similar to Elvis or I Want to Dance with Somebody this year, only about Celine Dion. The problem being that the very same actress who plays her when she's a full-grown woman plays her as a child by ducking down on her knees at a table and trying to look young. Also, if you've seen the singing scenes in here, she can't sing at all. And Celine Dion can sing. YouTube one of the singing scenes in here. It will change your life forever. Starting off our top 5 of the most disgusting disasters that came out this year is Halloween Ends. The ending to a trilogy that should have never happened, that managed to not be about what the trilogy is about in the first place. A movie that marketed itself as the epic showdown between Michael Myers and the world, but had nothing to do with Michael Myers. Because Michael Myers is in a sewer while the kid who accidentally knocked another kid down a flight of stairs apparently is taking over now? Someone okayed that through a studio and put it out, and the only good part is a brief fight in the third act. But that doesn't save anything, because the rest of the movie's shit! Now let's talk about a movie that had no real purpose other than to just flex on itself and say, look at all the IP we have. Chip and Dale. A movie that for a brief, small part of the movie manages to display some funniness, but aside from that, is just Disney trying to show off all the IP they have, and that's it. There's nothing more to it. Trying to be meta in an intelligent way, but it's stupid, and it's dumb, and it makes no sense, and I literally didn't laugh through this comedy at all. Coming into our top 3 for the worst this year is Hot Take, The Depp Heard Trial. This movie managed to come out under 3 months after the trial finished, and of course, it has no idea how to tell a cohesive story because there's not been enough time for anything to settle. They basically just watched the highlights, tried to make an impartial movie, but in the process made something with terrible acting, completely poorly framed shots with like this much distance between the head and the camera, where characters have this much space, and they're talking to you, and you're just distracted by all the room that's up here! And the people playing them pretty much just do an impersonation of key parts of the trial with some cringe social media people thrown in. Which aren't even real social media people. They're just actors who can't act like people. You're a people, so why can't you act like one? Just missing out by this much. And when I say this much, I mean that if I could close my fingers, if I was humanly possible to make these into a molecule from touching, that's how close it was to being the worst movie. But just missing out is Morbius. The movie that used let's put it back in the theaters because everyone would love to see it, and it flopped all over again because the entire movie sucks. The villain sucks. The acting sucks. Jared Leto sucks. The camera sucks. The lighting sucks. The music sucks. The action sucks. But however, to take the #1 spot of the most horrible movie of 2022 is The Munsters. This movie doesn't even seem like a real movie. I don't even know what to describe it as. Everything is wrong with this movie on every single level. I will not go into my ranting details about this, as I've not with the other ones, because we'd be here forever. If you want to know how sick I am of this movie and how miserable it made me upon my initial watch, just go watch my review. This movie stinks on every level, and you shouldn't expose yourself to it. So, I feel like that was therapeutic. Be therapeutic to yourself. Go down in the comments. Let me know the worst movies of 2022 for yourself. Thank you so much as always for watching, guys. I'd love to see your opinion, and I will see you all next time.